What's up guys, Spin Firearms here, and if you've ever followed my channel, I tend to carry Glocks, Springfield Armories, Smith & Wessons. Those are my main brands that I go with, right? And I do carry budget-oriented firearms, but I'm very picky with what I carry when it comes to budget-oriented firearms. Any firearm that's given me problems that is budget-oriented and I haven't been able to figure it out, I will not carry at all. On top of that, there are some firearms I just won't carry, just simply from hearing stories, experiences, and so on. But there's also a bunch of good budget-oriented firearms out there that I trust my life with. I made a video talking about my cheapest carry firearm, the CZ P10M, that was going for $229. And I was willing to carry it because I know it's a CZ, it's CZ quality, and there were very few corners cut because that wasn't the price that they were originally selling them for. But before we get started, hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts on the Dagger. Also, tell me your thoughts on budget-oriented firearms. So this right here is a Palmetto State Armory Dagger. It is a Gen 3 Glock 19 clone. Now, as we all heard about the hype, they're also releasing their Micro Dagger, which is basically a Glock 43X clone. What I'd like to see them do is make a Glock 26 clone. I would be all over that. Now, in today's market, there's Tauruses, there's Stogers, there's a lot of Smith & Wessons going for cheap, a lot of CZs going for cheap, and you also have PSA. They're all budget-oriented. Now, this dagger I got right here for $275 on one of their daily deals. And it comes with two Magpul mags, right? Which we're going to get into. But I don't run them with it. And like I said, we'll get into that. But overall, it's a solid firearm, right? They took Glock's design to a T and made it. You can literally drop in Glock OEM parts in every single part of this firearm. And you can also drop these into your Glocks, right? So they're 100% interchangeable. And that's absolutely awesome. Now, we know the design works, but quality of parts is where I get a little nervous with. But at the same time, PSA has an awesome plan, right? With Glock makes it, but then they sell them to your local range or your local online store, whatever the case may be. Therefore, they have to upcharge, right? PSA sells directly to a consumer. Therefore, they cut out the middleman. And when I think about this firearm and the way it performs, that is how I justify its price. Being under $300 for a firearm that runs like a Glock, shoots like a Glock, and is basically a Glock, it's because they can sell it for so cheap simply because they do not have that middleman. Now, it comes with PMags, right? And that's the only issues I've had. So what I normally do is I just run Glock 19 and Glock 17 mags in it, and I don't have an issue. The only times I've had issues so far is using these mags, and it wasn't the firearm. It was that the follower and the springs would get coiled up down here, and the rounds wouldn't push. They wouldn't feed. And so it would be when they're all rattling, right? So you can just dump them out, and that follower's still stuck down here. And that's happened multiple times with like 3 or 4 different mags that I have. So these are simply range mags. They're awesome for dealing with malfunctions, but at the same time, the malfunction's a little ridiculous. If you have that malfunction in a self-defense scenario, you're done. So I do not recommend carrying with these mags at all. Carry with Glock mags. Now, when you're running Glock mags, it runs flawlessly. Just the other day, I put about 200, 250 rounds through this thing, all target ammo, 100% reliable. I have over 1,000 rounds through this, hollow points, target ammo, everything. 100% reliable as far as the firearm. We're not talking about magazine created malfunctions because every time I run Glock mags, not a single issue. Now, it comes with a very ergonomic frame. I honestly like it better than the Gen 5 frame. It's almost like they took, they felt their Glocks and they're like, okay, this feels like a rectangle or a square and it feels a little weird. Let's just make it super ergonomic, and they made it on point. Also, a lot of people don't like the Gen 3 finger grooves, so there's a little hint of a finger groove just for that one finger to keep it locked in. And these two get locked in between like an almost built-in magwell, I want to call it. It's where the front sticks out, the sides stick out just a little bit, but it keeps your hand nice and locked in there. Also, they have these little cuts right here. These cuts, you get a double feed or a bad malfunction. That's where you get your leverage for on the flush mags to pull that mag right out, force it out. Because some malfunctions get really bad, and you're forced to drop that mag, rip it out, and get a new mag. As you can see, it takes down like a Glock. Pins are almost in the exact same spots. Does come with a rail, as it should. 3-dot white sights. I know you can get them with night sights. I did not. That's a square instead of a U. So better sights right out of the box than Glocks, and they are metal. So 100% better than Glocks. But what's nice is you can use any Glock sight that you want on this pistol. That is why I did not buy it with the sights, because I prefer Mariglow cap sights, and that's what I will be putting on this. I also have another Dagger build coming for you guys, so stay tuned for that. I got it with the stainless steel because I wasn't sure about the finish on the other daggers, and the stainless steel is actually really held up. I mean, it's got some nicks and marks in it and stuff, but that's just from training, bumping into stuff, resting. But other than that, it's really held up. Also, the wear on the barrel. You notice there's very little wear and rubbing and friction at this point, so that's a good sign as well. So overall, is this a Glock 19? Yes, in a lot of ways, but no at the same time. I trust my Glock 19 just because of Glock reliability, just because of how long Glock has been around and how little amount of problems they have overall. Now, the one thing I will say, obviously the firearm is safety checked and cleared. One thing I do like about this is it does have that hinge trigger like a Smith & Wesson. So if you pull up top, it's not going to go off. Oop. But if you pull down low, it's going to go off, right? So it's going to be that weird, like sometimes you're a little too high on it and it can stop on a Smith & Wesson. But on this, even if you're just touching that bottom hinge a little bit, you're going to be good. So there is no issues with that. Where some Smith & Wessons, when I first started shooting them and stuff like that have the hinge trigger like that back there, you would have some times where you realize your finger's too high up on that trigger where it should be lower. And so that round wouldn't go. But the trigger is pretty decent. It is mushy and it is Glockish. I do like stock Glock triggers better. So, but like I said, you can get connectors. You can put Glock triggers in here. You can do all sorts of stuff. So that's not a big problem. Reset's pretty good, but it is a little mushy, a little bit of over travel, as you can see. But very shootable. It's very Glock 19-ish, as that's exactly what it was designed to be. Now, for being under $300, you could basically get two of these for the price of one Glock 19. You know, I'm gonna leave that up to you. I would say get both because there's nothing wrong with having a couple extra cheaper firearms around for beaters or crap hit the fan situations and so on. And the fact that it takes Glock parts is just so perfect because I have about 10 or 20 different Glock upper and lower parts kits sitting in my bedroom that I could swap out at any time for any part in this firearm. So overall, I would say the Dagger is a great firearm, not just for the money, but overall. I mean, it's just basically a Glock 19 with better ergonomics, better sights. I like the finish better than the Glocks, even though I know Glocks have great finish. But just a good overall clone. It's probably my favorite Glock clone there is, especially for its price. Now, it also uses a metal guide rod, which is going to last longer, be smoother, have less drag, and so on. So over time, that's a great thing to have versus Glock's plastic guide rods. But overall, like I said, I have zero complaints about this firearm. I'm actually very shocked at how well it's performed. It is so easy to shoot. It's very accurate. I mean, like I said, nothing wrong with it. Has awesome forward serrations, rear serrations. This one comes with a cool little design. I mean, you can literally get 1,000 different, combinations for these. You can get all sorts of different looks. You can get threaded barrels. They have ones with already suppressor height sights on them. They have some with the sights in front of the optic. I mean, they basically have every configuration you could possibly want, and that's something Glock does not give you. Now, every now and then you'll get a Cerakote Glock, or you'll see one that has an optic already on it. But when it comes down to it, PSA offers this in, like I said, 1,000 combinations, it feels like. And that's something Glock doesn't do. They just don't, they're Glock. They perform, they're reliable, so they stay like that. They don't try and go outside the box or anything, which I feel like they definitely did on the Dagger. So shout out to Palmetto State Armory for making a good firearm. I trust this with my life 100%. I can say that. I can back it. I just don't carry it because I carry smaller firearms. This is a little too big for me. And I'm good at shooting small firearms. So great firearm. I absolutely love the Dagger. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Drop a comment down below and subscribe. Thanks for watching.